Hello and welcome to Yoga with Catherine. Today I'm going to be taking you through the top 5 best poses for full body flexibility. Now I'm going to be offering the beginner versions and then the more advanced versions of this so that you can stretch every part of the body. A lot of the time we think that we have to hop on the mat and start to flow and do a yoga flow, and you really don't have to. You can also just optimize your yoga practice and sort of practice each pose one at a time, and just create that separate practice. It doesn't have to be a flow every time you hop on your mat. So I really want to emphasize that. I think that a lot of people are intimidated to step on their mat because it's like, oh, well, what am I going to do? Well, maybe you could just practice these 5 poses, making it really simple. Do you have 2 blocks nearby? If you do have blocks, if you don't, that's okay. You don't need them, but it will help you go further into the stretch. So especially if you are not a beginner, you want to really get deep into a stretch, maybe open up a little bit wider than you already are. If you're new, you can also use them, but you may want to just sort of hold back for a little bit and just practice these and then bring the blocks in later. So we are going to start in child's pose, but I do want you to have your knees as wide as the mat here. Now, if this is just too much and you just feel like you really can't sit in this position, you can always pop a block underneath. So this wouldn't be the advanced version, this would be the more beginner version, just to lift up the sit bones a little bit and take the pressure off the hips. So totally up to you there. Once you have your knees as wide as your hips, you're gonna walk your hands all the way out. Now I really want you to stick your bum out, and I want you to draw your chest down towards the mat here. And draw it so much down to the mat till you feel a really deep stretch in the shoulders here. And I also want you to feel a stretch in the hips. So if you don't feel a stretch in the hips, open up your knees even wider, draw your chest down to the ground even more. Now I'm not putting my forehead on the mat because otherwise my microphone goes funny, but do rest your forehead on the mat. And then from here, with your forehead rested on the mat, if you are feeling all kinds of ways, you're feeling lots of stretching in your hips and your shoulders, stay right where you are. But if you do want to go further, you can actually spidey your fingers, bring your fingertips, your fingertips kind of just touching the mat here, pushing your hands off of the ground, and then just drawing your chest down towards the mat even more, really opening up, making sure that your chest is just kind of just drawing as far as it possibly can. And with each exhalation, you want to take deep breaths in, and with each exhalation, really drawing the chest even further down to the mat. And also make sure that your sit bones are glued to your heels here, so don't lift up your bum here. You are drawing your pelvic bone and your tailbone rather up towards the ceiling, but I don't want you to stick it up so much that your heels aren't connected to your bum. And if your knees are a little too tight and you're not touching your bum and you're just pushing back as much as you can, that's okay. So it's actually quite complicated. Child's pose is, it can be a lot of things. So that's also a great thing when you're practicing one pose at a time. You can really deep dive into the pose and make sure that your alignment is correct and you're doing it in accordance to your level. You know, because child's pose can be beginner friendly, but it can also be pretty advanced depending on what you're doing. All right, let's take a deep breath in collectively through the nose. And as you exhale, draw your chest down towards the mat as much as you possibly can. Another deep breath in. Big exhale out. Now from here, I want you to walk your hands over to the right. So we're going to get deep into the left side body here. Still in child's pose, still really deep in the hips here. And you should really be feeling it. And if you're not, open up your knees even wider. I want you to be feeling it in the hips. I really want to get the most out of this stretch here. Another deep breath in. Big exhale. Let's walk the hands over to the left so that we can get into the right side body. Continuing those deep breaths. Big exhales as we draw the chest even closer. Maybe relax the hips into the heels even more. One more breath. And just a reminder, I do want your forehead on the mat. Just for me, I can't do that because my microphone just goes a little crazy. Let's bring our hands back to center, and then option to go back to where we started with that same position, drawing your chest down towards the mat. Or if you want to get deeper into your shoulders here, I do want you to bring your blocks in front of you. And then you can just bring either your elbows to the blocks and then kind of just create, I'm gonna have to push mine a little bit further, create a prayer position behind your head, and then you can just kind of draw your chest down towards the mat once again. Or you can also straighten out the arms here. So up to you, whatever you wanna do here, but this is gonna get really deep into the shoulders. The shoulder stretch feels pretty intense, so don't force it too much. Just kind of create that sensation and then leave it at that. Once again, deep breaths in. And big long exhales out. One more time, deep breath in. And big exhale out. All right, slowly make your way back up and then just close your knees like a book. Kind of just pitter-patter the feet on the mats, just unwinding from that deep hip stretch that we were doing. Move your blocks out the way, and then we're gonna come down to our bellies. So once again, if I don't put my forehead on the mat, it's my microphone, but I do want you to place your forehead on the mat. And then from here, bring your hands in line with your shoulders, spread your fingers out as wide as you possibly can. Make sure the tops of your feet are stuck on the mat, so they're anchored into the floor here. And you're lifting your elbows up towards the ceiling. Okay, so you should feel a little bit of a stretch in the shoulders already here. If you are drawing your shoulder blades down, they're not hunching into your ears, in other words, so your shoulder blades are sliding down your back. Deep breath in. And then as you exhale, I want you to open your feet as wide as the mat. So they're on each corner of the mat here. They're still glued to the top. Your tops of the feet are glued to the mat. And then as you exhale, push your chest up with your fingertips. We're coming into a really deep back bend seal pose. Deep breath in. As you exhale, open up even more. Lift, lift, lift. And then fold all the way down. Now in this position, I do want you to kind of tuck your tailbone in, so you squeeze your bum as you push up. And a lot of the time, the issues that we have here, whenever we're prone, so our face is facing the ground, we tend to kind of expand the stomach and arch the back. And what this is going to do is put a lot of pressure in your low back. So rather tuck the pelvis in and lift through the belly. So you're not really like expanding the belly. You're lifting and breathing through your chest, if that makes sense. So imagine the air coming into your lungs only, not the stomach. And then when you're breathing out, it's exhaling through the lungs. All right. If that makes sense to you, definitely comment when class is done, because a lot of the time that really fixes the prone issue that we have. Deep breath in. And then exhale, tucking in the pelvis, lifting up through the belly, opening up. Can you feel that difference when you tuck in the pelvis a little bit and squeeze the bum? And then come back down. So we're stretching the front body and then also, of course, creating that flexibility of the spine and the back bend. Deep breath in. Exhale, tuck the pelvis, squeeze, 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 lift and lengthen through the stomach. And send your gaze out in front of you. Fold back down. Let's actually do one more. Squeeze the bum, tuck in the pelvis, lift all the way up on that exhale. And then come back down. Beautiful job. All right, bring your hands beneath your shoulders here. Push all the way up. Let's push back down at facing dog. So of course we all know down dog stretches many things. We mostly think of down dog as a hamstring stretch, but honestly, it could really just mostly be a shoulder stretch. but I do want us to bring the hamstrings in. There was a really weird sound now, and I don't know what that was. So the way to do that, and the way to make sure that we are not creating a weird position in downward facing dog, because surprisingly it's actually done wrong most of the time. Most of the time what we're doing is straightening the legs and then rounding the spine. But what I really want you to do is actually bend the knees, kind of almost like you're drawing your belly to your thighs here. Your heels are really, really lifted, and what's straighter than anything else is your spine. So you're drawing your chest towards your knees, and you should be able to feel a stretch in the shoulders. If you're not feeling a stretch in the shoulders, you're doing it wrong. From here, draw your heels down. Now, even if your heels don't go further than this, that's fine. I want you to feel the stretch in the hamstrings, but I don't want you to compensate by rounding the spine. You're really not going to get anywhere doing that, so make sure your spine is nice and straight. Heels are drawing down to the ground, but they do not have to be flat. Deep breath in, you're really going to feel it now. As you exhale, draw the chest closer to the knees. And that's really the focus here. So feel it in your hamstrings, feel it in your shoulders. Make sure that you're not rounding the spine. Deep breath in. Big exhale, chest to knees. Deep breath in. Big exhale, chest to knees. One more time, deep breath in. And big exhale, chest to knees. All right, so the next position that we're gonna do is just come forward, and we're gonna lift the right leg up and step it through into a low lunge, okay? So we're gonna get into the hip flexors here. Now, really important, once again, if you guys watch my videos and you already know and do my classes, you already know, I actually want you to come straight up. I don't want you to be down here, because you're not gonna stretch the hips actually as much as if you stayed up, tucked the pelvis in until you feel a stretch in the front of the left hip in this case, because we've got the right leg forward. You're gonna feel that stretch in the front hip. And if you don't feel it, make sure you're tucking in the pelvis, straight spine, shoulders drawn down, then you can come forward, all right? Then you're really gonna feel it. But what we tend to do is bring the hips back and then come forward and think we're stretching as well as we could be, and we're not. So also just making sure that your hips are square and we're not really kind of doing something like this. Hips are square, tuck in the pelvis, come forward. Now, you do have the option here to just bring your blocks next to you. You can kind of just pop them here just to make this a little bit easier if you want, so that it's not so exhausting if you do just want to stretch. But I do encourage you to actually activate the muscles surrounding the joint, because that's really how you're going to get that flexibility. You guys know that I talk about that a lot. We need to have strength to be flexible. We cannot just be weak and flexible. Think about it. Have you ever seen somebody just incredibly flexible but they're really weak? No, that doesn't happen. Your body will not let go if you have weak muscles. And it's not me insulting you, calling you weak. It's something that can be fixed pretty easily, right? Okay, now once again, every exhale, we want to go deeper. Let's take one more breath here. Exhale deeper. Beautiful job. Just push back, and then we'll come to the other side. We don't have to push back into a down dog again. You can if you want to, but I do want to kind of avoid the flowing situation, because I want us to be focusing on the pose rather than flowing from the poses just for the purpose of this practice here. So we're tucking in the pelvis, we're squaring the hips. Send that left sort of hip back a little bit so that you make sure that you're square here, and just really tuck in. And if you need to go a little bit forward, make sure that you're keeping it tucked. You're not going to start arching as you come forward. And once again, you can use the blocks to support you here. Deep breath in. And just keep that breath nice and steady. With each exhalation, just making sure that you're tucking it in, coming forward, going a little bit further. And if this is really uncomfortable on your knee, you can always also pop a pillow underneath, and that helps a lot. One more breath here. Beautiful job. Bring your left leg back to meet your right. And then we're just gonna walk the hands out in front of us, and we're gonna find puppy pose. So it's kind of like a tabletop position, but you're just gonna walk your hands forward and then draw your chest down towards the mat. So we're doing another heart opener, shoulder opener, back bend situation. And if you're comfortable here, feel free to stay. But if you want to go a little bit further, we'll bring the blocks out in front of us again. All right, so for this, I kind of just bring the bottoms of my forearms on top of the blocks and then use that to come down. But you can also sort of push it forward just to find a comfortable position for you so that you can see if you can get your forehead to the mat from this position. And you can also do a prayer position if you want to, bringing prayer hands behind your head so you can really get into the shoulders here. It's totally up to you what you want to do to take it a little bit further. And once again, keeping the breath nice and steady, making sure with each exhalation we're going further. I really want you to make sure you're doing that because that is how we can improve our flexibility. Providing the oxygen to the muscles and then allowing it to relax and lengthen as you exhale. One more breath in here. Big exhale out. One more breath. Big exhale out. Last one. As you exhale, let's come all the way back up. Ooh. Beautiful job. Okay, we're gonna bring the blocks out to the side and then bring our legs out in front of us. Now this one's quite tricky, but it's really good for stretching pretty much the whole body and also creating the length in the front body as well as strength. So of course we're not going to be stretching the hamstrings, but you will see what I mean. So this is reverse tabletop. Bring your hands behind you, straighten the back here, draw the shoulder blades down. Your legs are in line with your hips and your feet are very close. You want your knees pretty bent, but you can always adjust as you push up. So take a deep breath in. And then as you exhale, you're gonna send your hips as high as they possibly can go. So we're opening up, lengthening the front of the body. You're gonna really feel this the most in your biceps, which is another really important and neglected area. Deep breath in. As you exhale, send the hips even higher. A lot of strengthening happening here. Deep breath in. Exhale, send the hips higher. Last one, deep breath in. Exhale higher. And then slowly bring your hips all the way back down. All right, thank you so much for joining me in this full body flexibility, my favorite poses for that. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know what poses you like to practice for your flexibility practice, how far you are in your journey. Let me know all of the stuff so I can get to know you. I'm so excited to see you in the next one. Thanks for being here.